violence is so preventable. It comes down to having.
For many people, today is just Monday, but for people who were near this spot at 10th and K, this is a horrific reminder for what happened just a year ago. It was a day that forever changed their lives, and right now there's a vigil going on for honoring the victims who lost their lives in what is known as Sacramento's deadliest shooting. Now, tonight we are spending a big part of our show looking at the K Street shooting that happened, but first we want to take a look at how we got here. At 2 a.m. on Sunday, April 3rd, 2022, as many people were leaving bars and clubs, they ran for cover as gunfire echoed through the city streets. There was a fight on K Street, then a shootout. Emergency responders arrived on scene within minutes and declared what happened, a mass casualty incident. 5 people were found dead at the corner of K and 10th Streets with multiple gunshot wounds, and a 6th person was found dead at 10th and J. The oldest victim was 57 years old. The youngest, just 21 years old, Yamile Martinez Andrade, who had just celebrated her birthday.
She was a real loving person. You know, she'd do anything for anybody.
Melinda Davis was also killed that day. She was an unhoused woman who slept on the sidewalk near the scene of the shooting. A photographer took her photo not long before she was killed.
She's never been rowdy. She's always been kind. If you're a part of Midtown and you walk through there every day, you're just gonna kind of miss her.
As the capital city mourned those lost, a manhunt began for suspects. Police later said they believe there were 5 shooters from 2 gangs. Brothers Smiley and DeAndre Martin and Mtula Payton have since been charged with murder, among other charges. All 3 remain in the Sacramento County Jail and are expected in court again in June. So what now? The conversation the past year has been focused on not only how to make downtown safer, but also more attractive. But how do we address the problems that got us here in the first place? That's what investigative reporter Andy Judson has been looking into.
He fell down, hit his head. He's bleeding profusely.
We were clearing the area, trying to get people to comply with heading home. Night was over. A minute or two after that is when the shots started going off. And people started scattering in all different directions.
The shooting left 6 dead and a dozen more injured. Downtown Sacramento went into panic as one of the deadliest shootings in Sacramento's history was unfolding. But to staff of popular K Street bars, the victims were familiar faces, even friends.
One of the young ladies had been in the week before. Another of the young ladies who lost her life, who was an innocent victim, and it had been in the night before. So that kind of hurts.
Even those linked to the shooting had been at his bar 45 minutes prior to shots being fired.
And one of the things the officers saw when they were reviewing the video is they saw that one of the people involved left at like 1:15. Another one left at like 1:20.
His security footage is part of the investigation and why we couldn't obtain this video. But what Ken saw sticks with him to this day.
People, you know, hiding on our video and everything. You could see them hiding behind trees, dropping to the ground, just laying flat, trying to make sure they weren't hit.
Business did not recover for months.
And I don't think K Street really started to recover until probably mid-August.
A struggle on top of a tough couple of years. COVID hurt many K Street businesses.
K Street has so many vacancies. The block over from us between 9th and 10th, I think there's one business open after 9 o'clock at night, which means there's no lighting up and no positive energy to help with the environment at night.
A lack of lighting has also been an issue. It was a concern voiced in reoccurring meetings held after the shooting.
There was meetings with the police and Downtown Sac Partnership and venues, and we kept pushing for lighting, and it took 10 months for it to happen. Unfortunately, those meetings aren't taking place anymore, so we don't have that direct communication.
So we went to the Sacramento Nighttime Economy Manager, a new position created shortly after the shooting that works with businesses, residents, and various city departments to enhance our nighttime economy.
And it's something that unfortunately kind of ebbs and flows when I first started doing this job.
She says the city has hired consultants to do an assessment of K Street.
And what that is really identifying our challenges and opportunities and seeing what we can do. We're getting a lot of feedback from different people, but we do need to do some things with our vacant spaces.
She's looking to use vacant locations as venues for live music,
which would be really exciting because that adds vibrancy to the area, but it also helps our creative economy.
But businesses we spoke with that did not want to go on camera told me they believe the city is not doing enough. But where we have seen change happen since the shooting is not here on K Street, but in various areas across the city.
A lot of the violent crime in our city is committed in very small geographic areas and really just by a small handful of people.
Data from police shows that 45% of violent crime in the city of Sacramento happens in just a few areas, like Oak Park, Del Paso Heights, and South Sacramento.
But if you ever expect things to change within your community, within the city, you've got to take a look at these root causes and see what you can do to change the trajectory for people.
That's why when she took over as chief, right when the K Street shooting happened, she decided to take a new approach.
You know, you really need to understand why violence occurs and what you can do about it.
She and Sacramento police have targeted these areas to truly understand the causes behind violence there and are working with organizations in these communities to address issues.
By working with them and in partnership, we're able to really change people's lives.
One of Sacramento Police's community partners is Brother to Brother, an organization focused on gang violence prevention and intervention.
If you think about it, since that shooting, there hasn't been a lot of gang violence throughout Sacramento. And that's a direct result of this collaboration.
He knew a number of people involved with the K Street shooting.
How was that for you?
Difficult. Very, very difficult because a few of those young men were on a path to turning their lives around and getting out of gang violence.
It's why he calls Chief Lester's approach brilliant, in that it redefines public safety to involve organizations like his.
People in every neighborhood that are respected by their neighborhood, they're known in their neighborhood, and it's always easier to allow those people to be mediators, so to speak.
And to get to the root cause of violence in hopes of preventing violent shootings like the one that happened here on K Street far before they ever happen.
It's been a great collaboration because now we're teammates with law enforcement.
It's a collaboration he believes is working.
And the hardest thing about that is when we're successful at doing what we're doing, nothing happens. So how do you celebrate nothing happening?
But celebration also comes in the form of safety.
Put simply, should people feel safe coming to K Street, especially at night?
Absolutely. You know, I think that you'll find that when you come down here, it's just it's a really neat scene. This is what Sacramento is about.
Light the beat!
And it really makes us a very unique city. It is what makes Sacramento, and Sacramento isn't Sacramento without the people.
But for those that were there a year ago and witnessed the K Street shooting, the images of that night are still present.
I've seen fights, seen unfortunate events, someone gets stabbed or someone gets shot. But this is the biggest one-time event that took place.
He hopes people and city leaders will keep victims of that night in their memory while they work to make K Street a place to enjoy.
The more we have positive energy in the area, the better it will be downtown and the better the businesses will be and the more it will grow and recover.
Investigative reporter Andy Judson joins us now for our conversation, really taking a look back at 1 year since the K Street shooting. And Andy, I know that we've talked to a lot of people, and really depending on who you ask, people come to downtown for different reasons. Some people say that they feel safe. Some people say they only come if they have to. Some people just don't care. It just depends on who you ask.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to ask you, as an economic corridor, and this is something that's been talked about for over a decade, What does the state of downtown Sacramento look like? Can you paint the picture of what we're looking at right now?
Sure. Well, I think first of all, it depends on what time of the day you come, but there's a number of factors that have really contributed to what downtown and specifically K Street is like today. And I know, we're talking about the shooting and how that has developed to where it is today, but a big thing, possibly even bigger than the shooting, is COVID. We've seen so many businesses throughout this area have to close their doors because they just don't have the customer base. And of course, that is a number of the state workers, which businesses here rely upon. So between those two things, they're just not getting the customer base they need. And then with the shooting, we heard from the general manager of Dive Bar that that also really impacted business for a couple of months.
And something else I want to ask you too, we're seeing a historic influx of people, with the Kings winning and a few other things. How is law enforcement really keeping the area safe with so many more people coming down now?
Yeah, and I asked Chief Lester that specific question, and she said, of course, they always have security for the Kings game in Kate Street, but they're really trying to solve the violence before it happens because there's just not a lot law enforcement can do if someone is really committed to a crime or to making a shooting happen, but they can stop it by starting at the root cause by getting into the community-based organizations and within those communities to really start it before anything happens.
So the prevention tactics, those are what's really key.
Exactly.
All right, Andy, thank you so much. We
Thanks for
appreciate it.
having me.